Hello everyone and welcome to our third lecture video on our May 2018 question 2. In this session I'm going to discuss how to determine the sales and purchases if these are unknown. So of course the sales and purchases, if they are unknown, you cannot be in position to prepare the statement of profit or loss. So that is a very important feature of incomplete records, to determine the sales, especially the credit sales and the credit purchases if they are unknown. Now, in the lecture presentation that I made, I talked about some of the approaches you can take in determining the credit sales or receivables, for that matter, if they are unknown, and also including the purchases. I just want to briefly go through what I discussed. So I mentioned that if the credit sales are not known, you can use the vertical format, okay, as per the screen, or you can use the T account. So I'm going to use the receivables control account, which is a T account. I'll put my opening balance on the debit, closing balance on the credit, the cash paid on the credit, and then the balancing figure are going to be the credit sales. So as I've mentioned, you need the credit sales to prepare the statement of profit or loss, which is part 3 or part C of our May 2018 exam type question. Now straight away I'll take you to my workings. These are my workings. I think this I had marked these as working number 2. Okay, these are marked as working number 2, and in working number 2 I'm looking for the credit sales, and this is the T account. I'm using the T account, that approach, but you can also use the vertical format that I presented in the lecture presentation. So the balance brought forward and the balance carried forward, we'll take those positions in the T account. The balance brought forward will be a debit in the receivables control account, and then the balance carried forward will be a credit in the receivables control account. So when you look at our question, you'll see that we have been given in note number 4, which is always going to be the case. In note number 4, we are given the opening balance for the trade payables and also trade receivables. So we shall also need the trade payables as well. So I'll be picking all that from here. So for the case of the trade receivables, the balance brought forward is 15.4 million and the balance carried forward is 18.7. So I pick those figures and bring them here. Balance brought forward is 15.4 and the balance carried forward is 18.7. So as you have seen on our format here, we need the cash received. So in the question we are told that cash was received both in coins and currencies, which is the cash in hand, and also through the bank deposit. The cash of 15.5 million was received and the bank deposit of 50.4 million was received. When you look at our question here, let me just highlight the we have note number 3. We are told that cash and bank receipts from credit customers included 15.5 and 50.4 million respectively. So those are the figures are picked up and brought into our T account here, leaving us with the credit sales, okay, as a balancing figure of 69.2, and of course we are balancing at 84. Okay, when you add these two you get 84. That is 84.7, which is still the balancing figure on the credit side. So that means that I have managed to obtain the credit sales, which I'm going to use in the preparation of our statement of profit or loss. So when we move to our statement of profit or loss, as usual, we shall have the title, John Enterprises, statement of profit or loss for the year ended 31st of December 2017. Now I'm going to prepare this partially because the balance or because the next part of the statement I'll prepare it in the next lecture video. I'm preparing this now to show you that there are some more unknowns that I need for me to complete this statement. So as per the usual format, we start with the sales, and of course the sales come in both cash and credit. Now the cash sales have already been given to us in the question as 66.7. So we have the credit sales as per working number 2, the one I've just demonstrated, 69.2, and therefore that gives us the total sales of 136 million. From this I less the cost of sales, which comprise of the opening stock, which we have in the question as 4.5 million, to which we add the purchases that we don't have. So these are unknown, and I need to look for these using the payables control account as per the discussion. Of course, that leaves me with the cost of goods available for sale as unknown. The closing stock has been given. This one is in the question. Okay, when you look at our question here, we are given the closing inventory as 7.5 million. So these ones we have, no worries. So it means that I need the cost of sales. These are unknown. Okay, good enough. In note number 2, we are told that John usually makes sales at a margin of 35%. So you remember in the presentation I made, I think I can still take you back here. I talked about the markup before coming to this. I talked about the margin and the markup. We said that the markup is the gross profit as a percentage of cost of sales, and we also say that the margin is the gross profit as a percentage of sales. So good enough, the question has given us in note number 2. We are told that the margin is 35%. So in my working, I proceed to determine the gross profit. So that is going to be our working number 3, since these are unknown due to the fact that the purchases are unknown. Now my note number 3 is focusing on the gross profit, and in the discussion I'm saying that the gross profit is unknown and shall be determined using the margin of 35% as given in the question. So our margin, I shall pull out the formula: gross profit divided by the sales times 100%, and thank God we have the sales as 136 million, and we also have the margin as 35%. So if we substitute in the formula for the margin, that leaves us with the subject of the formula, which is the gross profit, which is 47.6 million. So I just want you to use your calculators, okay, to try and ensure that this is the figure that we actually get. To ensure that that's the figure that we actually get. And on top of that, you can pause the lecture video and pick up this working if you got challenges on your way. So this gives me a very good starting point to determining the unknown total purchases. So I take the 47.6 million to the statement of profit or loss, okay, 47.6 million, and you all know that to arrive at the gross profit I have to deduct the cost of sales from the sales. So that means that our cost of sales will be obtained by subtracting the gross profit of 47.6 from our total sales of 36 million. So my calculator gives me a figure of 88.4 million as the cost of sales, and now I will add the 7.5 closing stock on the cost of sales to give me the cost of goods available for sale. You can prove that the cost of goods available for sale, I will add the closing stock to the cost of sales. So that leaves me with the total purchases, the unknown figure of 91.4 million. Now whatever I'm doing here, you should be appreciating the formula for determining gross profit, the formula for determining cost of goods available for sale, the formula for determining the cost of sales. All these formulas are coming out here, given the fact that I'm working through the statement of profit or loss, but you are appreciating how to arrive at all these figures. So finally, since I have the total purchases as the balancing figure from the statement of profit or loss or from the trading account, I hope you all know that the part of this statement from sales to gross profit is what we call the trading account. This one that I've highlighted, that's what we call the trading account. So from the trading account, I've managed to derive the figure for the purchases. So I proceed to now determine our purchases. So we are told in the question that 60% of the purchases are made in cash. Okay, we are told in note number 2 that 60% of the purchases for the year were in cash. So that gives us a good starting point to getting the total credit purchases that were made in the period. So we are saying that the total purchases are 91.4 million. That is from the statement of profit or loss or the trading account, and it means that our cash purchases will be 60% of the 91.4. So when you calculate and of course try to compute 60% of 91.4 million, it should be giving you a figure of 54.8 million. Now this means that the credit purchases for the year are 40% of the 91.4, which should be giving you a total of 36.5 million from your calculator. Finally, you can proceed to determine in working number 5 the total payments that were made to the suppliers. Okay, this is a good starting point to arriving at the payments made to the suppliers. Remember, in my cash book I had working number 5. Okay, working number 5, I've already discussed this in the previous lecture video. Working number 5, we're supposed to get the figure for payments to suppliers. Now this is unknown and needs to be determined from the control account, what needs to be determined from the payables control account. So I prepared the payables control account with the objective of deriving the payments that were made to the suppliers. Now in the discussion we had, we mentioned that if you want to get any of these figures, if you want to get the figure for let's say you don't have the figure for the payments made to the supplier or trade payables, you don't have the figure for credit purchases, you can use the payables control account. Now the format, this is slide number 23. You'll be able to appreciate the fact that the opening balance is on the credit, balance brought forward is on the credit, balance carried forward is on the debit. The cash paid is on the debit, and the purchases figure, the total purchases figure, the credit purchases figure is on the credit. Though this time round we are not looking for the credit purchases, we are looking for the cash paid to the suppliers. So this will help you in determining various figures that are unknown. So the balance brought forward, of course, is 9.5 million. The balance carried forward is 10.5 million. The payment that I'm looking for as the unknown is on the debit, and then we of course we have our credit purchases as per working number 4, just above here. Working number 4, credit purchases is 36.5 million. So I bring it straight here in the T account. So at the end of the day, you see that our cash payment to suppliers comes to 35.5 million. So that is how I arrive at that figure that I took to the cash book. And at this point, I should mention that all the figures that I've indicated in my cash book are all clearly worked out. And in the exam, the examiner will need to look at your workings. So at all stages of my explanation and presentation, you can always pause the lecture video, draw the relevant accounts and statements, and then proceed to the final statement, which is the statement of profit or loss. Thank you.